What is up, YouTube? My name is Trinity, and welcome to the first video of Spooktober 2024. This is going to be episode number 6 of our Cryptids from Every State series, and we are quickly closing in on the end of the series, which I am excited about, but it's also kind of bittersweet. This is the first series I've ever really done on my channel, so it's been a lot of fun to do, but we're not running out of cryptids anytime soon, so this isn't going to be the end. The first cryptid we are going to be talking about today is the Atazia of New Mexico. So this creature comes from legends from the indigenous Zuni people of the Zuni River Valley of New Mexico. When I was first researching it, it really reminded me of the Wendigo of Canada and the northern US. It's said to be a very large cannibalistic demon, but it does have a physical form. This creature is said to be so large that it can't fit its shoulders into caves that humans can easily enter and exit. Its entire body is covered in long, stringy gray hair. Its hands are so gnarled and nasty it looks like they're horned, and it has extremely long talons. It also apparently has long, prickly hairs on its chest, kind of like the quills of a porcupine, and its back is covered in black and white scales. It has a swollen red face with hair on its scalp that's very coarse and thick like that of a bison. It has yellow tusks protruding from a mouth that is split from ear to ear, and it has yellow bulging eyes. When I initially read a little bit about this creature, what drew me to the Wendigo is the fact that it said it was a cannibal. However, instead of a person becoming this creature by succumbing to cannibalism, it is its own creature. It preys on others of its own kind, but it also likes to eat people. It apparently carries very primitive flint weapons such as axes, knives, and clubs, but it can also make more complex weapons such as bows. Next, we are going to be talking about the Hobgoblin of Fort Niagara in New York. Now, while researching New York, I was very excited to find this because Niagara Falls is my hometown. And I have been to Fort Niagara. My best friend actually worked there at some point as like a tour guide. So I was very excited to hear this. I forgot to ask her before she went to work today if she had heard this story, but apparently it's a very well-known one, but I had never heard it. So it was really cool to learn something about where I used to live. Also, I guess for the purposes of this story, the word hobgoblin is another word for demon. So there have been 2 sightings of the Hobgoblin of Fort Niagara. The first one was in 1804 when a piper named John Carroll got very, very drunk, and he mouthed off to one of his superiors, getting him a punishment in the hole, which was just a room used for solitary confinement. It said that early the next morning, guards could hear Carroll screaming at the top of his lungs, claiming to have seen a hobgoblin. Though because he was in solitary confinement, I'm assuming they just kind of ignored him, but when he was released, he begged for a pencil, piece of paper, and a candle, because apparently this hobgoblin that had visited him had instructed him to write a song. And he had done just that, and he wrote a song that he titled Carroll's Thoughts on Eternity. If I find lyrics or the actual song and I'm able to put it in this video, I'll put it in right here while editing. The second sighting happened 8 years later in 1812, and the sighting was made by a soldier who was on sentry duty in the cemetery. This soldier claims that he was approached by the hobgoblin while in the cemetery, and he commanded it to halt, shot at it, and then ran in the opposite direction, where he knocked himself out on a gate. Other soldiers had come to investigate what the hell the commotion was, and when they found him knocked out cold, they picked up his canteen and they realized it was full of corn liquor. Not to make any assumptions, but I see a common theme with both of these sightings. If they weren't just drunk off of their asses already, maybe there was some sort of contamination of alcohol, even though these are very far apart. But I know, like, safety standards for food back then wasn't the greatest, so maybe there was some sort of, like, contaminant that caused hallucinations, or they were just drunk as fuck. Next is the North Carolina Wampus Cat. I may have briefly talked about this in my Appalachian Cryptids video. This one will go a little bit more in depth with this specific story, but I did want to add that while researching like the origin story of this cryptid, I did learn that this isn't actually a Cherokee legend, at least the origin story. It's a story that somebody said was about the Cherokee people, but I couldn't find anything that said it was specifically their story. But the story goes, there was once a very beautiful woman from the Cherokee Nation. Apparently, when men of her village were about to go on a hunt, they would go into the woods and kind of have a sacred ceremony where they would ask for assistance on the hunt as well as ask for forgiveness for the lives of the animals that they were about to take. Women specifically, though, were forbidden from attending these ceremonies. However, the woman of this story was very curious about what happened. She wanted to be there, she wanted to know, and she wanted to see. She begged her husband to take her with him next time he went, but each time he would say no to her. Eventually, one night, she just decided to follow him out there, disguising herself in the pelt of a mountain lion. She hid nearby and watched, and as this ceremony happened, she was completely drawn in because she was finally seeing something she had wanted to see her entire life. So she kept getting ahead of herself and kind of crept in until the spellcaster, that's the word that was used, I'm not sure if that's accurate, but somebody who was helping perform the ceremony spotted her. The men that were performing the ceremony grabbed her and brought her into the center of the circle. And with this magic happening, she was turned into a human cougar hybrid thing. And it says she roams around the mountains of Appalachia, a sad soul acting out from anger or frustration when she either steals livestock or just disrupts something going on in human life because of her sadness and grief of never being able to be a part of that again. Next is the North Dakota Minawashitu, aka the water monster of the Missouri River. So this creature is very strange. It's red in color, 7 to 8 feet tall, and has a bison-like hide. It also has a single eye and then a horn protruding from the forehead right above the eye, human hands, and then cloven feet. Also along its back with the bristles of bison-like fur, it also has spines. The Mandan Nation said that it controlled the breaking of the ice in spring as it became more active as temperatures rose. So it would begin crushing and breaking up the ice. It's also said if it was seen by anyone in the daylight, that person would begin shaking and convulsing, eventually going mad and only being released when eventually dying from the fright. And the last creature we are going to be talking about today is the Loveland Frogman. And for this one, the identity of the creature has actually been solved, at least the sightings that we are going to be talking about today. So the Frogman, as you can probably imagine, is a human-frog hybrid. It's about 4 feet tall. The original sighting happened in May of 1955. It was originally seen by a man driving at night outside of the Branch Hill neighborhood, where he spotted 3 small figures on the edge of the road, with apparently frog-like faces and leathery skin. The second sighting happened 20 years later in 1972. On March 3rd at 1 a.m., Ray Shockey, who was a police officer of the town, was driving around and claimed to see a strange creature also on the side of the road. It scurried in front of his patrol car, illuminated by the headlight. He said it was 3 to 4 feet long and estimated to be between 50 and 70 pounds. He said it also had leathery skin, and when reaching the other side of the road, it crouched like a frog and jumped over the guardrail. This mystery, however, was solved 2 weeks later when another police officer named Mark Matthews saw the same creature in almost the exact same place that the previous officer had had his sighting. He shot the animal and recovered the body and had identified it as an iguana. The animal was between 3 and 3.5 feet, and initially wasn't recognized by Mark because it had lost its tail. And the main speculation for how an iguana was just chilling in Ohio was that an irresponsible owner had either released it after it got too big to handle, or that it had escaped on its own. And those are all of our cryptids for tonight, so thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and share with any of your friends that are also celebrating the spooky season with us. If you're not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell so you'll be notified anytime I upload. You especially want to have that on this month. And finally, if you've missed any episodes of our Cryptids from Every State series, be sure to check out the Cryptids from Every State playlist that I'll have linked at the end of the video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.